Hello and welcome back to Scarworld Season 2. I am Vilcata, and once again I will be your host on this journey. So today we have a lot to do, but first I wanted to show you something. The iron farm has been productive, and I wanted to give you guys just a quick view of what it's been doing before we get into today's plan. As you can see, it's been doing quite well. I've had to dedicate a double chest to iron blocks and this sweet shulker box that will be in my ender chest. These, and people keep questioning my sanity, are dedicated to poppies. So today's plan is to get the revised and upgraded breeder up and going. And I can't wait to show you the cool upgrades that I have planned for it. This will be phase 1 of the upgrades. Phase 2 will probably happen in a different video down the road. But for today, we want to get the ability to breed again, but also we're going to add in a bunch of redstone for being able to disable the breeder and to be able to enhance our food intake from the standard farm design. It's going to be pretty cool. I can't wait to show you guys what I have planned for it. Before we get into that, I wanted to touch base, or a little follow-up, on what we did last episode with this iron farm. So we noticed that there was a problem with iron golems bumping into each other and not falling into the capture chamber. And I made a modification for that. So the modification here was that I pushed this spawning block back just once and increased the drop location to 3 blocks wide as opposed to 2. Now, one of the important things about this that I discovered the hard way was that you need to also move the zombie back. Phantoms are being pests, but they're afraid to get near me because of the cats. Jelly's protecting me. What happened initially was that I moved this back, increasing this to 3, the opening, and I did not move the zombie to leave him in line with the villagers. What happened was that, unfortunately, that guy right there, the iron golems, have a reach of 2 blocks, and when it would fall, they would swipe and kill the zombie. And this happened more than once before I realized what happened to the original zombie. I replaced him and the next one disappeared almost immediately. There was another modification I had to make, not related to that problem, but related to the recent update of Minecraft to version 1.16.2. So in that update, they altered the rules for how villagers behave with their beds. And what happened was that the villagers landed it. Were sleeping and then popping up on the uncovered parts of the beds, which is problematic. Essentially, their priority for where they come out of the bed changed, and instead of them popping out into the half slab in water, they would pop out onto the bed itself. It's a simple fix. All we need to do is just put the half slabs over all parts of the beds. But without this fix, they would get out on the bed, and next night they would sleep and then pop back out on the bed again. It wasn't random. They would always pop out on the bed, which means they would never pop into the chamber, and if they're not in the chamber, then they never lose sight on the zombies, and it shuts off the entire farm. begin with, we needed to dig out the brand new breeder. Now, you've already seen me dig out breeders before, so there's no real reason to waste a bunch of time walking through this. So a quick time lapse, I feel, is just fine. Now, there is a fair amount to dig out, and I don't yet have efficiency 5 on my pickaxe, but I do have haste 2 from beacon and efficiency 4. Just shy of the ability to do instant mining, at least with a pickaxe. Grass at this point is pretty easy to instant mine, which is great. But there is a bunch of digging to be done, and I thought I'd give you just a quick cut of that process before we get into building the new enhanced breeder, which we will get into in just a moment. Oh, I've been waiting for this for quite some time. Yeah, that's right. So I've brought 3 blank slates just to start off. A couple of these guys are going to be armor or toolsmiths, so I can generate easy emeralds off of them with the iron farm. And the swamp villager over there is going to be my librarian. For now, I just want to get the efficiency 5. I don't want to do a full trader haul. I wanted you guys to witness the first zombifications. I should get an achievement for it, and this could take a really long time. So expect a time lapse. Yay! It has happened. Alright, that took a really long time. But that's what it takes when you cure zombies. Alright, I'm going to get to cycling this guy here on the left. What? Another time lapse? Well, let me tell you. This time lapse is brought to you by Efficiency 5 Librarian. When you have Efficiency 5, you gotta tear down the entire world with insta-mining. Why not? Because you can. And if you can, well, sometimes you should. So enjoy this little clip here of my enjoying insta-mining. All right, it's post time-lapse update time. So I cleared out a fair amount of space for a couple reasons. First of all, I wanted some just land to work with for general use, I guess. I knew I was going to need or want some wool for better redstone management. It's always very nice to be able to lay out your different redstone lines on colored blocks in order to make it easier to manage what lines are doing what, as well as to reduce the chances of accidentally breaking into a redstone build when you might be digging around it or redesigning. You know, maybe if you're after you've built what you're building, you decide you want a different color palette for the aesthetics of it, and you're breaking down walls to rebuild areas, and it might not always be obvious that on the other side of a block is redstone. So it's nice to use colored blocks that are dedicated purely to this block has redstone on it. So I've put together a little bit of breeding of sheep, and this is a very simple design where the sheep, when they eat the grass or if the grass regrows, the observer notices a change in the state of the grass block, sends out a signal to the block behind it, and the redstone dot transfers it back into a dispenser with shears in it. It's a very simple, very efficient design. I only have a couple of sheep inside here. So the more sheep you have in there, the more chances that someone's going to eat from it the moment it regrows. Now, 2 are more than enough for a casual build. I wanted to show you this. Here is my efficiency 5 guy. This took hours to get. But there he is, efficiency 5. I've unlocked, obviously I've zombified him. I've unlocked also projectile projection 4, which is more or less useless. And blast protection 2, also useless. I could re-zombify him to reduce the cost of name tags. I don't know if I'll bother. This guy, however, this guy is the all-star of librarians. This was my sharpness 5 villager from the other library. But when I unlocked all of his trades, having a max tier trade is already hard to come by on a villager. So getting this sharpness 5, getting it for 19 was already unreal. But getting the sharpness 5 took quite a long time of cycling the podium to finally get him. Anything after that is kind of gravy. You know, you're going to unlock these guys, and there's going to be other enchants that come along, and you hope that maybe they'll come up with another decent enchant. But this guy, max tier sharpness 5 enchant, max tier blast protection. I know this is a very specific enchant, but with the addition of ancient debris and people using beds for mining in the nether, this is amazing. But then he had to go on and Unbreaking 3, which is one of the most used enchantments in the game. And this guy has 3 max tier enchantments. Amazing. So this guy is an MVP. I'm so excited to have him. So this guy is going to be my king of librarians. But let me get back to what I was doing. Alright, it's time for another status update. Now, as you saw, I dug all this out already. Well, you probably saw that in a time lapse. I've also walled everything off. The walls will all be stripped of their bark. All the water locations are in place. All I need really is to throw in the composters and finish off these little walls here. I went with a glass barrier so that our villagers can see each other. They don't want them to feel lonely. Plus, I thought it would be nice, the black glass with the white, the off-white, I guess, surroundings, kind of keep with the neutral tone. But the enhancements are still underway. And this is what I wanted to take an opportunity to show you guys what's going on. So, first of all, obviously, this doesn't belong normally, which are these sticky pistons. What these pistons can do is push this glass siding into the way, preventing this farmer from being able to throw food at this villager. In fact, he can't even see the villager because the villager is down a block. So it will be enough to obscure him. And that will make the farmers ignore the breeders, and it will shut off the breeding. So this gives me the ability to shut off the farm. Now, normally I wouldn't want to shut off the farm because the farm serves a dual purpose, right? The farmers are throwing food at these guys. They're throwing more food than they can possibly use towards breeding. The rest of the food falls through and gets captured below. So turning off the farm means we turn off the food intake. That's something we don't want to have happen. So what I've done is in the corners that meet for the quadrants is I have set up another villager chamber. So in here will stand another villager. It'll just be one villager, no beds, so there's no breeding potential. Hello, little bee. How you doing? And another set of pistons. So these will be on opposite states. When these are retracted, these will be extended. And with this extension here, the farmer can't get close enough to see the villager inside. And I know that we can't see him, but these are entities, these hopper minecarts, and the villager can see through them. The trapdoor here is not here to hold up this minecart. What it's here for is to block the pathing. If this trapdoor were not here, this guy would try to go hang out with the guy in the middle, and he would shove the carts out of the way, ruining the whole thing. These carts, of course, are sitting on top of a hopper chain that goes below. Everything else is below. So I've been busy down here clearing out space and linking all of the pistons. So as you can see here, I'm using yellow wool to indicate the redstone lines for the pistons. And if we were to look in the ceiling, it's kind of a drop ceiling. So the redstone runs on the yellow wool, and there is a repeater putting power into the block so that obviously the redstone going into the block would be enough to turn off the torch, but by running a repeater into the block, it passes power through the block, and then there's a redstone line going on to the other piston quadrant. And that's true for all of these setup lines. This hopper line will capture all the food that's being thrown at the villager in the corner, and they will all meet up somewhere. Okay, so big update. I kind of got carried away. And by carried away, I mean I realized that I had to do more before I could do less. So when we last left off, I had completed more or less the area up top, and I believe I'd shown you how the mechanism works for shutting off the breeding and opening up the food collection, which will be here. That was all Phase A. Phase A was purely getting the breeding going and the food collection going. Phase B was to be the zombification mechanism, the wildly over-engineered zombification mechanism. Well, in order to complete phase A, I needed to know where I was going to store the adults, and I needed to set up the automated shut-off mechanism to connect these yellow lines. In order to do that, I needed to know how much space I was going to take up for phase B. So one thing led to another, and I basically built phase B. So we're going to get 2 for 1 in this episode. I want to run over this very quickly. There's a lot to cover. I don't want the video to run too long. I'm not going to go too in-depth with the redstone that has gone on, though I'll give you some quick explanations for what's going on and the reasoning behind it. So following the line of action, baby is born, sweeps away, ends up in the chamber, just like the previous breeder. Or the adults end up on the pressure plate. And enough of them on here will give off a powerful enough signal to go up to here and trigger all the flip-flop of the shutting off of the breeder, turning on of the food collection. And for now, I'm going to just put probably a couple of chests on the bottom of these to collect food for now. I'm not going to bother setting up the food collection. It's something I can do later. But once we have villagers in here, we can start zombifying them and locking in trades and whatnot. That will start with this dual villager chamber control station, as it will. Now, the reason I'm doing 2 is to kind of speed things up. As you saw with my original zombification cure, it can take up to like 5 minutes for a zombie villager to convert back to a villager. So it's better to have a couple of them running at the same time. It's also cooler to do it this way. So the flow is I press a button to ask the system for a villager. Doing so calls a cart over here, and it can call a cart from either side depending on which button I press, which station. The cart comes up here, which will go far enough in to grab a villager out of the chamber. Now the villagers standing on this plate will give power to those rail lines. It will hop to this rail line, and then off to that rail line. This is the villager selection chamber, which will have one on either side, where I can choose one of 3 options, which is I don't like the villager at all. Maybe he's a brown coat, in which case we suffocate him, put him out of his misery, leaving an empty minecart. Or I don't want him right now. He's a desert villager, and I wanted a swamp villager because I was going to do a librarian. I don't want to kill him, so I want to send him back to the chamber. Either one of those is a red button, which flips this line. Sends the cart. As you can see, I don't have to push it. It'll make it on its own into this collection chamber. The cart breaks on the cactus being collected. When it passes through this hopper, I pull a signal off of it, pushing a piston, so that if there was a villager left in that little hole, he'll be pushed into what will be a water stream that will return him back to the holding chamber. Also, the line splits and comes down this green line here, and T flip-flops that rail line back. Now, those who are experienced in Redstone might be wondering, well, why did I use a T flip-flop to flip this rail when I could have used a simple pulse extender, which would have taken up significantly less space and wouldn't have required all this line and all that stuff. The reason that I went with a T flip-flop as opposed to a pulse extender is because I'm on a multiplayer server that has a lot of players at any given time, and while it is a good server, lag can happen. And I wanted to take timing out of the equation. So that was why I'm using T flip-flops here as opposed to pulse extenders. Now, option number 3 was, I like the guy, I'm going to keep him. Pressing the green just powers that rail, and that's all it does. I just placed a... Yeah, take that back. Powering that line will run him down here and dump him onto the next set of rail tracks, which will go into the zombification chamber. There will be a zombie standing here. He will zombify the villager. When the villager becomes zombified, he can be taken away. The line will run back to here, which is the second part of the system. And here I can swap out this workstation for anything, lectern or whatever, and cycle the trades until I like what the trades are. Then I can power level them. I'll have a chest here full of emeralds and books and iron and raw flesh and food, whatnot necessary to power level these guys. If I max him out and his trades are not at the optimal price, I can press the red line, which will send them back to be zombified and bring him back again. I can do that over and over again until I'm satisfied with his prices. And then the green line, or the green button, will T-flip-flop this, flipping him over. He'll cross over to protection rail, flipping it back. And so the reason why I use a detection rail here but not here is because when I initially call for the villager, he passes over this line going this as a one-way, and it would flip this line backwards. But here it's one way only, and it will flip this back. This will send them up and away to a holding area over here. And this is going to be my cooldown area. So there will be a chamber over here for holding them. I can review them after a couple of days. And if they need to be re-zombified, I can push them back into the system. If not, I can send them on up to the roof to go into a trading hall. Alright, I think that's about all we have time for today. As you can see, I got a little bit more work done, did a little bit of decorating. I'm not sure that I'm going to stick with this motif, but it was fairly easy to get them because I was leveling a mason. And I like bricks and quartz, and who doesn't? And I just got tired of staring through the openings. So the backdrops still have some wood on them. It's still a work in progress. The temporary wool blocks are still in place. But I have successfully zombified several villagers, so the system is working flawlessly, and the whole system for calling in the villagers is working, and for being able to review them and send them back if I don't like them, which is awesome. It's working as intended. There are a couple of enhancements I'm going to do to this down the road, including putting a light here that indicates that the guy has returned to the system, as well as I'm going to add, I think, a piston in the back here, just very quickly, so that when they are returned and they go down this water stream, I'm thinking I'm going to put a piston on a timer that sticks out just for a little bit, just to kind of back them up, to slow them down a little bit longer, make it a little easier to get new villagers and the re-request. But that is all we have time for today. I want to thank you for watching, and hope that you've enjoyed it, and really hope that I see you guys in the next episode. So please don't be shy to leave a comment. If you have any questions or improvements, let me know, and I will catch you in the next episode.